Perfect.
Okay, we're live. Let's see. Well, we're live.
Well, okay.
See. Oh, wait, wait. We do have an intro video. I now see it, so let me parse it. Okay, guys, 1 second. You're in for a treat. Welcome to Cinema Bias. I'm Drew. This is Alex. That was a real bop.
That was our new intro video, guys. Thank you.
Oh my god, that
so
was
much.
So good.
I would love to know what you guys think. We should probably put it on Twitter and see what people think. I'd be kind of curious.
That was made by the amazing my crow mate Danny. Made that. It's really good. I loved it. So this is Cinema Bias. We have a very special episode tonight that we're doing. We're not only doing a Patreon centered episode, which is this week was a Patreon pick, but we're also going to have a special guest joining us along with that. So we have 2 guests tonight. It's going to be awesome, guys. But before we invite them on, Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Cinema Bias is all about? Besides awesome videos.
Excuse me. Tonight's definitely going to be a big episode, but Cinema Bias is our movie chat show where we dive into our personal movie biases, why we like or dislike a certain genre, director, whatever it may be, and really focus on what took us so long to finally watch this movie or just learn to appreciate the movie. And so this movie is a patron pick by one of our guests. And so I'm excited to talk about it. When I told people that we were going to be diving into this movie, their first response has been consistently, "Oh, this is a movie that would never happen today." And so I'm excited to talk about why or why not that may be the case.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Drew, joining us, we have on this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Drew, I know he's an amazing patron of yours. So would you like to introduce our first guest?
Yeah, one of our first guests, the person who requested this. By the way, guys, we do have Streamlabs open. So go to streamlabs.com/VideoDrew, throw in a couple bucks, like and subscribe to the channel, do all the things. So guys, hey. So one of our special guests tonight, the patron who suggested this movie in particular, is Rob Schaefer. Hi, Rob.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on.
So this is one of your favorites. I hear. This is my cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
Great pick, by the way. I love My Cousin Vinny now. I'm so grateful. Like this show, got me to watch that movie. I'm so happy about it. But thank you so much for not only being a patron, but for picking this movie. I know we're gonna introduce our new guest here in a split second, but you picked this movie. Why did you pick this movie?
I picked this movie because I wasn't sure if you've seen it or not, and I would like to get your opinion on it.
Oh, that's fair.
Basically, that's why.
Oh, we're excited to talk about it.
It's like we're opinionated or something like that, right, Drew?
Yeah, something like that.
Definitely. And our conversation wouldn't be complete without Mr. Sean Verita. He's also he is our producer here at Cinema Bias as well. So
I can't be on top there. That's it. Oh, thank you, ladies, for having me, and Rob, thank you for picking this movie. It's a great movie. It's one of the funnier Mel Brooks movies, in my opinion. So I'm happy to be on this show to talk about it.
Yeah.
And this week, I'm the dummy who has never seen Blazing Saddles. I've seen it. I've seen parts of it, but not since I was a really little kid. And and there's no reason that I haven't. There's just a couple Mel Brooks movies that I haven't seen as much. I haven't seen High Anxiety or a couple of his earlier ones. I like Mel Brooks pretty much. I like him enough, but I'm not. I'm not like a Mel Brooks head or whatever. When I was a kid, I really liked Robin Hood Men in Tights. So
I'm kind of curious about as far as Drew. being a Jewish woman, I know that you've kind of talked about how Woody Allen as a director, how a lot of his movies really played a huge role, and in like New York City, that kind of thing as well. And there's a lot of not only conversations, but a lot of themes and personalities that are very specific to the Jewish community in particular. That you said that that would be hard to identify unless you are Jewish. Do you feel like that's the case with Mel Brooks movies, or no?
That he's Jewish. Mel Brooks is definitely Jewish. Yes, I think that we can claim part of our tribe.
It's a little bit. Right?
No, I think there's a vast difference. I mean, like Mel Brooks is kind of Judaism is just like kind of playing up like Yiddish words and stuff, and like Springtime for Hitler and the producers. It's less about the identity of Judaism and more just like here's like a funny thing that a Jewish person would say or do. I don't find him like it's not quite like Woody Allen, but it's Jewish humor. Yeah, I would definitely say that. Jews have a history in Hollywood as storied as anyone.
Very extensive, for sure. Well, again, thank you so much for picking this movie. So I want you to kind of tell us right off the bat, why is this movie important for you? What makes this like a favorite comedy of yours?
This is one of the best examples of satire and comedy and parody of any movie that I've ever seen. What makes it such great satire is that, it's always punching up at its target, which is racism, and it never portrays the people that are racist in this movie with any redeeming qualities. You look at all of the quote unquote bad guys in this movie. They're all racist, and through the course of the movie, you see the townspeople learn from their ways, and they learn that they shouldn't be racist, and racism is bad, and they learn and they accept the railroad workers and they're at the end, and they give them land, and the racism jokes. This movie was also written by Richard Pryor, who was just a genius. So
no big deal. Like, I don't know. Not that many people know about him or anything, right?
Right. Exactly.
He was supposed to play Bart too.
Right.
He was. Yeah.
Yeah, supposed to star in it, but the company the studio got scared of him. So it's just a great movie. It ticks all the boxes. It's hilarious. The Sheriff Bart, he's the smartest guy in the room always. And Gene Wilder was absolutely perfect as the Waco Kid. And other than the part where he's drunk at the very beginning and he's hanging upside down and Bart goes, "Oh, are we awake?" And he goes, "Well, that depends. Are we black?" And Bart goes, "Yes." And then he goes, "Then I'm awake, but confused or perplexed," or something like that. And that was the last time race was ever brought up between those two. It was just just a great movie.
Absolutely. All right, and what about you, Sean? When was the first time you saw this movie, and also who introduced you to this movie?
Oh, that's a good question. So like Drew, I think my first Mel Brooks movie was Robin Hood Men in Tights, and then I liked that movie. And as a teenager going into my 20s, me and my cousin he started to introduce me to a lot of different movies. So he was actually the one who started getting me to watch James Bond, a lot of the older Bonds. And then that got me in love to that. And this is one of the movies we actually started watching too, was Blazing Saddles. And I agree with Rob. It's the sense that, like, yes, it's punching up, but at the same time, it's punching up and making you laugh at what it's making fun of. It's taking something serious and it's using certain words that are offensive, but it's making you laugh and think about it in a not aggressive way. Even though the words are aggressive, he's taking some of the sting out of the words. Obviously, they're still offensive words. That's not saying that they're not, but the way he's using them is it was a very unique take. I agree that this movie, as it was made, cannot be made now. Now it can be made similarly, but like if you just take the Blazing Saddles script and put it on the table now, absolutely not. But it's just one of those movies that just makes you like, huh, that's interesting. Especially considering Mel Brooks is the one making it, so he's not a black person; he's a Jewish man, and him just kind of putting this spin on this black sheriff and how black people were treated in the 70s, even as well as if this movie took place in Wild Wild West, of course, like how they would have been treated then and how they're treated now then, and almost kind of like how we're treated now too, if you think about it. So it just has a lot of different layers on it. So it's multifaceted.
Yeah, there's a lot to dive into. And also asking the real important questions, such as, where are all the white women at? So, I'm glad this movie's asking the real tough questions that other movies really don't have the balls to ask. Now, Drew, real quickly, we're going to have you give us, we're going to put 60 seconds on the clock so you can tell us the entire plot of this movie.
Well, shouldn't we do what's your latest biases? Because you haven't, just curious what your latest thoughts on this movie is.
I kind of went over it, but maybe I should be more clear. My bias is just I like Mel Brooks movies. I remember seeing this when I was little. I remember it being very racy, racy. No, it was very much about race, and I was like, this feels like a little bit like maybe not the thing that I am the best qualified person to find humor in. The producers is funny because it's making fun of Springtime for Hitler and stuff, and that's me, my people. So I was like, that's fine. But I always had the thing where I was like, Mel Brooks, is this okay for you to do? And I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I finally watched it, and I don't feel like there's any malice in this movie, and I think it's a beautiful movie with a beautiful message, truly beautiful message about friendship and about tolerance and stuff. But I remember as a kid being I don't know if it's okay for Mel Brooks to say the N-word. I don't know if that's cool. But that was my perspective.
Or doing brown face,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a circle generation, so who cares?
There's a lot of to pass in this movie. But yeah, like you mentioned, it makes sense that, this is also really big. This was a hugely popular movie in the 70s. I believe it was made in 73, 74. That's when it was released. But when it came out, it was a very successful, it was a very popular movie. It was released in late spring, early summer around that time. And it was a huge deal. I actually remember mentioning to you right before we started, we went live, Drew, that this movie was not supposed to hit theaters. When it was made and it was presented to studio executives at Warner Brothers, they were told that this movie, not only did it cost too much, it cost a little too much money, it went over its budget a little bit, but also the executives did not find it funny. They had too many notes. You're using the N-word. You're using this genre, which is kind of on its way out in Hollywood. And
which genre?
Yes, absolutely.
Which genre? The satire genre or the Western?
Westerns in particular. Westerns in particular. If you're gonna Westerns were still popular, but they were not as popular as it used to be by comparison. And but when Mel Brooks presented it to the executives, apparently they laughed very little, almost not at all, throughout the entire movie, the executives. And they wanted it to tank it. They were like, this was a waste of money. Let's just move on to the next project and have a loss. Mel Brooks said, nay, sir. What I want to do, just give me one more chance. I'm going to show it to the Warner Brothers employees, get a group of 100 people, have them watch it, and let's see how they react. They watched it and loved it. They were laughing hysterically. And it's crazy to think, if what would be if we didn't have this movie now. And parodies, definitely one of the better parodies we've had in film in general, I would definitely think.
Absolutely.
Overall, I would kind of say, how old were you when you saw this for the first time, Rob? Was this like a father-son movie or what?
No, my dad took me to plenty of inappropriate movies when I was little, but I was 2 when this movie came out. But I remember going to the local video store and getting it on a Betamax, and my dad rented it, and I remember watching it.
Yes.
So I had to be like 6 or 7 years old, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So this was like a father and son movie?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Awesome.
We watched.
This would be a
them all.
good movie to have to have a father-son relationship, like watch along with.
Have you shown it to your son, Rob?
It's funny. I was talking with my boys. I got 2 sons, a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they.
Oh wow.
I told them that I was going to be on tonight, and they asked when they would be old enough to watch it, and I said we could watch it right now, but we couldn't find it streaming anywhere.
Oh wow, yeah, you should totally. It's on Amazon Prime if you rent it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We didn't check.
I feel like that's an appropriate age to bring a kid into this movie. I wish I'd seen it earlier.
In my opinion, it's a great movie to watch with your kids because it just shows you get to have a conversation through humor, and that's what the best humor does, in my opinion. It takes a subject that's painful, and you get to talk about it. Like one of the most striking and touching moments in the whole movie is after Mrs. Johnson gives Bart a pie, and he takes the pie and he's like, "Oh, great, a pie!" And then she knocks on the window again, and then she's like, "I hope you'll have the decency not to tell anyone that we talked." So she hadn't quite gotten it yet, but that was probably a line that was written by Richard Pryor because he knew that's a painful line.
Yeah.
It gets you to think really hard about that. I don't know if anyone else agrees with my opinion on that, but it
affects what
the humor has a good conversation. It's a good starter for a conversation of why they call these people the names, and why even the racial humor set aside, there's a lot of gay jokes at the end, which today don't line up, and it's really, we talked about punching up and racism. In my opinion, that doesn't carry through, and he was really punching down with those jokes, and that part, the last brawl where those jokes were made, that doesn't hold up at all. But
it's almost like that part's a different kind of isn't a different movie almost.
It's like a
it's also I think like what Alex might say about the portrayal of the Native Americans stuff too, which is like it's some of the stuff is just is different culture, different time. So like some of it just like is not okay. Like now, like the F word is obviously not okay. Like that's just like never okay for anyone to say. Like so that's, and a lot of that stuff near the end. But like I think for the most part, like that's kind of what satire is. It's like trying to be edgy. It's trying to break boundaries. So like inevitably looking back on it through like a historical lens, some of it will like not have aged well just by the definition of what it means to be like trying to have conversations and trying to be part of a dialogue. Like some of it will not age well going forward into history because like it's a static thing. Like it can't learn or like get better or use better language. So
absolutely, people are going to continue making mistakes until they learn why it's considered a mistake. It's considered a mistake, and until someone corrects them and explains the reasoning behind it.
And movies are static. Like movies can't be like, "Whoops, sorry, now we like updated ourselves because it's 2020." Like movies are what they are, and they're a product of when they were made. So
absolutely, this is I feel like this is like low key, a very complex movie. For even though. And I know here in a split second, Drew, you're going to be kind of diving into the plot because in theory, I mean, it is a very simple plot, but there's just so many small moments and layers to this movie between the relationships between the actress. Oh my gosh, that song, "I'm So Tired," killed me. I I was on the floor laughing. It was great. And at first it took me a minute to really understand what she was saying. And then I like once I started connecting, like once I start like actually understanding, because she does a really good with a thick German accent. But it's great. Yeah, that the relationships between between the two, main characters, Bart and Jim, obviously. Like, what happened at Mongo? It's Mongo's deal. There's a lot. I mean, there's kind of a lot to dive into it. But, that's actually not going to be our job to explain it all. It's going to be Drew's job. So, Drew, can you tell us in 60 seconds the plot of this movie? Tell me the plot, girl.
So my timer is not working for some stream, but go ahead.
So there's this guy named Bart, and he is working at the railroad all live long day, and he gets in trouble with the foreman and his boss, who's Slim Pickings, and some other guy, and he knocks him over the head with a shovel, and then he becomes a kind of prisoner who's going to be like executed by the governor, which is Mel Brooks, and this is all taking place in the Wild Wild West. But then since there's a secondary metal bad guy named Haiti Lidley, whatever.
Hedley Lamar.
Hedley Lamar, that's right. Hedley Lamar. It's such a great role. Amazing. Anyway, so that guy's like kind of in the middle there. They decide to make this black guy sheriff, and becomes sheriff of this place called Rock Ridge. And eventually he learns how to like outwit a bunch of people that are trying to get through the town to get like the railroad money. And he leads the town in like a sort of uprising rebellion against the bad guys, and they create a fake town.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Drew, this is the first time you've never didn't complete the whole.
Yeah, that's hard. That one has so much. I know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys, put this in the record book. This is the first time.
First time
ever.
That's Hedley. Thanks, William. I think I hadn't spent that much time trying to think of Hedley Lamar. It's such a good name.
It's a great name. Well, they were actually Mel Brooks is actually sued with it by Hedy Lamarr, the actress.
I was thinking. Yep.
And she was sued. I mean, she sued him, and apparently Mel Brooks is quite flattered, and they actually settled it out of court. So, who knows what happened. Okay, Sean, can you tell me some of the remaining plots after Drew kind of wrapped it up?
Yeah, so basically, the reason they put Bart in charge of Rockridge, because they figured he would just F it up. And nobody would tolerate him because he's a black man being put as sheriff. So they figured that the town would go to shit, and they will be able to build the railroad through the town to complete it. And then when that kind of didn't work, they hired some thugs to kind of to run everybody out of town, and then that's where the big battle at the end kind of takes place. So that's where the movie's kind of going towards the whole time.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. How about Rob? Is there anything Sean and Drew might have missed?
They got it pretty much down. But there is some fourth wall breaking, which is very innovative for the time.
There's tons.
Yeah,
it's so good. We can't forget like I said earlier, with I'm So Tired, Lily Von Strupp. Sorry, Stupp. I can't pronounce it correctly.
Stupp is right.
Stupp. Yeah.
Who's a saloon actress / prostitute who is paid by what's his face to come in and seduce Bart into pretty much not only leaving but effing up a little bit. So that's our plot. Again, there's a lot of little layers. There's a lot of little character interactions and plots. So we're just going to be moving on to the next aspect of our tonight's episode, where we're just going to dive into some of our favorite characters, scenes, and plots. And again, it's so quotable. This movie is so funny and weird and delightful. Let's kind of focus on characters for a little bit. Who is your favorite character that you love? Nate, actually scratch that. Starting with you, Rob. Which character would you love to see in its own movie?
Well, I think I have to go with Mongo, just because he comes across he comes across as such a dolt, and
Mm-hmm.
but he delivers one of the smartest lines in the entire movie. Sometimes Mongo feel like he's a pawn in the game of life.
That
So
was so
he's
good. That was my favorite. I think that was my favorite line in the movie.
right,
Mongo's
and
That
great.
was
he's played by the late great Alex Karras, who in 1974 very well could have been the baddest man on the planet. He's a Hall of
Mm-hmm.
Famer in the NFL. He played for the Detroit Lions. He's knocking
wow.
out horses. Yep, he punches horses. That's just such a great line, and how he rides to town on an ox, and the ox's tail swings before yes and no. It's just he's a great character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
I would like
Character.
to see. I'd like to see him.
I like
Yeah,
that kind of character thing with the good guys, be like because like the bad guy becomes the good guy. Like that's a cool trope in my book, and I really like this. Mongo as that kind of character, like the bad guy who's like ultimately got like a heart of gold.
Mhm.
Yes.
What did happen to him? That is an answer that I really want to see answered for sure. What about you, Sean?
I mean, I guess it would have to be Bart, and it's kind of one of the things that they tried to do. They tried to make a series out of this, and that didn't work. But
They did?
just the way Bart was just so, like Rob said, he's the smartest man in this movie. The fact that the jokes that he's doing with Mongo, with the telegram for Mongo, that's just stuff was just so funny, and the stuff with the little old lady, like that's to me is the I laugh out loud every single time she comes up to him and says what she says. And then I also laugh really hard when the scene you brought up where she's like, "Yo, here's the pie," and she apologizes, and then it's just like, "Well, I would hope you would tell nobody that I spoke to you." Like, I don't mind, I can apologize. I just don't want anybody to know that I did. Like, so
Right.
just the fact that kind of humor was just so good, and then all his interactions with pretty much just everybody, and it's outsmarting everybody. Was just Bart's to me is I think it would be, and I think the studio was wise to be scared of Richard Pryor. The movie would be 100% different if he was in the role.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
I think Bart. I can't remember the gentleman's name right now. He does a better job of blending in the movie, and I think if Richard Pryor was in the movie, it'd be a Richard Pryor movie. It'd be like Richard Pryor and Blazing Saddles versus it just being called Blazing Saddles. You know what I mean?
Cleavon Little.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you kind of really followed up and really agreed with Rob Drew, but do you have a different answer? You kind of want to stick with Mongo as well.
I want to go with Lena Headley. Headley Lamar. Sorry.
Headley
Lamar.
Hello, Lamar.
I think that's my favorite character. I mean, there's something about him that's just like very like Scar-like. He's just like he's such a prancy little bad guy. I love him. He's just like such a like mustache twirling dandy. I don't know what he's doing in this movie. Like he doesn't him being in this movie like makes even less sense than anything else in this movie. Like he's just the weirdly British bad dude, but he's so funny in it. He's so freaking funny. Everything he says makes me laugh. Yeah, his whole thing with Mel Brooks is ridiculous.
my
And
So
I
over the
think
top.
a great foil for Cleveland Little. They played really well off each other. Like they played, you never wondered who was going to be the one who outsmarts the other one. Like one of them was an idiot, but he was like a preening idiot. It was very funny.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
He tried to get discount on movie tickets. That's the kind of person he is. Yeah, he's the worst.
He's so funny. I mean, I feel like a lot of the characters like Cleveland Little, he's him and Gene Wilder. The physical comedy is so great. I would love to see a series of buddy adventures with them. That would be I'd be so down for that overall. It feels so genuine. Apparently in real life, they became really good real life friends after this because Cleveland before he made this, he was more known for doing a lot of theater, and he was still getting used to doing a lot of movies and TV. And Gene Wilder is like there to kind of help give him some pointers and kind of how it's just like a little subtle. It's more subtle because the camera's coming up a lot closer, obviously, versus performing in front of a crowd. Now, this is a hot take. It's not so much my favorite character, but one of my favorite characters I would love to see have its own movie would have to be Reverend Johnson.
Yeah.
Like everything, every little bit that he's in just steals it for me. I love it. It's so funny. Like he's like at the very beginning when they welcome the sheriff in, he holds up his Bible and it gets shot at.
Yeah, he's like, "You're on your own, kid."
And the very end, he says something like, "Oh, we wish you could stay," and he's like, "No, you guys are just still really dumb, and I don't want to be here." And he's like, "Well, makes sense." He's just so funny, and I love it. And he just,
This picture's kind of small. I don't think you can see it, but I'll bring it up anyway. It's kind of like this.
That was it's just so funny. It's just, and like from the get-go, he's like, "Yeah, we should welcome in this sheriff and everything," and they all just try shooting him instead, kind of. So it's great. Okay, so overall, like I said, it's a very quotable movie as well. I do know that we mentioned one of the most iconic lines that even if you don't realize it's from this movie is "Where the white women at?" But like I said, incredibly quotable. Do you guys have any other quotes that you think stand alone from this movie outside of as well?
Absolutely, I'll jump right in. It was kind of a parody from the old Treasure of the Sierra Madres movie Western when they're interviewing the gang members, and it's the Mexican gangs, and they said, "Hey, take your badge," and they're like, "Badges? We don't need no stinking badges."
Mm-hmm.
I quote that all the time. That's a perfect line. I don't know. I love that line.
That line is
What's it making fun of? What's that line from? Isn't it like
to the KKK members?
No, I know, but isn't that from something else? Like, we don't need no stinking. Isn't that from something else? I thought that was always a parody line. They were like quoting something else.
It's a parody line, I think, from Treasure of the Sierra Madres, an old Western.
Oh, gotcha.
Like yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure.
It's pretty quotable. I'm not somebody who's like really good at quotes, but like I really like the manga. Like the manga is a pawn in the game of life. That was gonna be one of mine. And the rest of it's kind of hard because it's like every other word in this movie is the N word. But it's like the Lena Headley. I mean, why do I keep saying Lena Headley? The Headley Lamar stuff is amazing. Where he says like you talk better, you got like a faster tongue than like a $20 whore or something. But,
Right.
yeah. When Slim Pickens says that about him, like you talk prettier than a $20 whore.
You put that tongue to good use like a $20 whore. That was fun. But
oh my god, when they crash in from the other thing, and they're like doing the other rehearsal in the studio in Paramount or wherever they are, and or Warner Brothers, and they're like, "Oh my god," and they're like, "Screw you, I'm working for Mel Brooks," and then they just start like fighting.
They all start fighting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorite lines, scratch that. I'm just gonna, instead of taking a line, I'm just gonna take the whole "I'm so tired" song.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. It's just such a vibe, and I appreciate it. And it's just like overall like really hilarious. Even thing is, even if you don't realize that song is from this movie, you can hear that song by itself and just like bust a gut laughing. I really do genuinely feel that way, because I don't even feel like I don't feel like her performance when singing the song is particularly great, but I think that's because she's supposed to be obviously tired and almost on the verge of being lazy in this one specific scene, and that's like the point of the song. So I get it. It's just boring on screen a little bit, kind of, that one scene. But
fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so overall, do you feel like there's one scene in particular that you feel like is a real standout from the entire movie? Starting with you, Sean.
That stands out. I mean, I just love like the wall breaking, like when he's like writing and like this happens. It's like, what the hell? I was like, what are we watching here? But like that is like, I love this band, by the way. But it's stuff like this that will like every time they break the fourth wall and Bart is winking at us. I think those are all the standout moments in the movie, to be honest. Because I think again, I just love Bart. So just when stuff like that happens, it's like, what are we really? It really like brought me to appreciate Mel Brooks's style, because then after seeing this, I saw Spaceballs and then seeing Young Frankenstein. So then I was like, "Yep, this." So then when I see a Mel Brooks movie, it's like, yeah, I know what I'm to expect now after seeing Men in Tights and then seeing this. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Drew?
I would say the end third is like my favorite whole part of this movie. Like I'm just gonna keep saying that. Like the end sequence of this movie, like the meta humor of it all, kind of like what Sean was saying. Like the meta humor of being able to go within a movie and like see the movie that you're in. That's something they play around with a little bit in Spaceballs, but like I've really always really loved that concept of like, it's like stay tuned. It's like you're watching. It's like a meta movie, and I like that concept a lot. So that always stuck with me.
Yeah. Well, it's not the first film to be quote unquote meta, but it's it really, I think, adds a lot to the movie overall, which is in this movie. There's like I said, there's so much going on plot wise. It's just kind of funny, just how he just looks into the camera and he's just like, "What do you think I should do?" and he's like, "Why should I ask you? You were trash," kind of thing. And it's just great overall. Now, overall, I think one of the big conversations surrounding this movie in particular is how this movie holds up. Does it hold up? Can it be made again? Should it be made again with today? I mean, like, and also alternatively, what would change for today's audiences with everything going on? Starting with you, Rob, you picked this movie. Because I feel like you could write an entire thesis on whether or not this movie holds up overall. But if you could pitch me, if I was an executive and you could pitch to me just one aspect about this movie that should not be changed at all, what would it be overall?
What that should not be changed would be,
Yes.
I think the aspect that shouldn't be changed is Sheriff Bart's hardships through being a railroad worker to becoming a sheriff, and all of the trials and tribulations he had for that, with using the satirical humor and his bonding friendship with the Waco Kid. I think absolutely that whole aspect of the movie holds up, and it holds up very well. Like we talked about earlier, the whole Dom DeLuise scene the slurs there, that doesn't hold up. They would have to redo that for sure.
Well, yeah, because like I think you made such a good point about it, because like you were right, like that's exactly the difference between what he's doing with the racial stuff, which is punching up, and what he's doing with the gay stuff, which is punching down. Like it's like making everyone
Absolutely.
like a minced meal. And that's like, it's truly like, it's clearly the difference that one of these was written like with love and like with the idea of tolerance forwarding in mind, and the other one was like the opposite. It's kind of like, yeah.
There he is. Yeah. So if you were to remake, if they were to remake it, they'd have to redo that final scene they'd have to find another target to punch up to.
Yeah.
Is kind of my thought. I don't know what that would be, but they would have to try to do. They'd have to find something.
Yeah.
I feel like there's one group of the public, of the American public, I'm totally fine with making fun of right now. Sorry for anyone trying to get page views off of this, but I mean, come on.
Okay, well, Sean in particular, what is one aspect of this movie do you feel like does not age well? Obviously, no movie's perfect, and this movie isn't, obviously, but what is one aspect of the movie that would be required to change if it was being remade today?
I mean, obviously, I think I agree with Rob with the ending. The ending would have to go or be rewritten for sure. But there is a way to remake this movie and still get the heart of what the movie is trying to accomplish. It's trying to have a conversation, but just winking at us while it's having it. And having a good time, you could still do that, but I think you just have to, if you want to set it in modern times, you could still do that and kind of have Bart kind of be, for example, instead of him being a black sheriff, you can have him be like a black executive going into like an all white, like kind of corporate setting and like, oh my God, he's going to destroy this company. And then he kind of turns it around. So you could do this now. But I just think you would have to be a lot more clever about it, and not be so like in your face, like with the racial stuff. Like obviously you can't use the N-word as much as he did, or probably at all. But I think there's still a way to get that message across. Was like, hey, we can have this kind of conversation in a funny way with still getting the same message across. So I think it's possible. So the to answer your question, it's just a matter of finding the N word is not something that you can use as easily and as free for all as they did. Everybody was saying it, like even though it was funny, like back then. So I wouldn't want to like cancel this movie because it's a product of the time. Like when it was made, it was not appropriate to be made, but it had its purpose. So you can make a Blazing Saddles type movie now, and it would have its own purpose too. It would have to be made slightly differently, but it's something that can get done. But you just have to have some really. I think the director would have to be black, though. I don't think a non-black director in 2021 would have the courage to do something like this now.
That would definitely be an argument for sure. I know when that was actually one of the big notes that Warner Brothers, the studio executives, had when they saw this movie. They were like, we got to bleep out the N word because we don't like the use of that word in this as much as it is, especially for a parody or a comedy. Richard Pryor actually fought the executives on it, and he's like, I want it this many times. Essentially, he fought for the active, consistent use of the N-word throughout the entire film. So it being like taken out is actually really interesting as well. Drew, with you when it comes to this movie, so we kind of talked about a little bit about what would change, what would stay. And for this movie, do you think if this script overall, do you think that this movie could be made today?
This movie, no, I don't think so. I don't think there's any way, shape, or how that this movie and the way that we like recognize it, like the way that Thomas is describing it, sound like a different movie. Like if it's about like somebody who's like a business executive, that just sounds like a different film, and that's great. But like that's a different film. Like it wouldn't be a satire then of the Wild West, which is like kind of what Blazing Saddles is, and like why it's funny. I think that like it'd be really hard to make this movie today because it's like not the place. Like it's almost like not the place of Mel Brooks to tell this kind of humor. Like, and there always will be white guys, Jewish guys, and other people that can say can speak to the other experience, and that's not necessarily wrong. But I just don't think that that's like what 2021 needs is like a remake of this, from like a white dude perspective. But I enjoy this film for what it is, and I think it really does hold up.
Yeah, it does hold. I feel like it holds the F up so much. Yeah. It's one of. I feel like especially a lot of parodies and comedies, sometimes they're a little too on the nose, where it's so specific to a time where, as a result, sometimes they don't age well. Like you have to have a specific knowledge of X, Y, and Z at that time period in order for it to be as funny as it could be, you know? Yeah. And even going into this movie, you could have a knowledge of Westerns, you could have a knowledge of a lot of these movies and, you know, different situations. But even if you don't have that knowledge or that awareness, I still think this movie, you'd find it very, very funny.
Yeah.
For sure, overall. Okay.
Oh my god, I love the opening scene. What was he saying? Not Old Man River. The Camptown races, but the ones that he was saying, he was like, "I get a kick out of you," or "I get the belt out of you." That was hilarious.
Right.
I laughed out loud watching it. It was so good. We are going to be wrapping it up here in just a few minutes, guys. We're trying to make it a very quick episode tonight overall, so just a few more minutes until we kind of wrap things up. And so we're going to be moving on to our final segment of the day. So we're going to do like a quick recasting, instead. Just a quick recasting and overall, because I just want to hear from you guys. This is like kind of a Western buddy cop situation ish, and again, you can go in whatever direction, no budget specifics or anything like that. Just what kind of recasting of the two main characters, especially whatever character that you would love to see recast.
Oh, I would go.
Okay, Sean.
Can I go first?
Sean's on it.
But I was like, I don't want anyone to take this answer. Dave Chappelle is Bart.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Yeah,
I
can see that.
It's like I haven't really seen him do anything like physical comedy specific since his show.
He was Robin Hood Boys and Men in Tights.
Yeah, I mean, like since his variety show and everything, we haven't really seen him do anything in like 15 years, on the big screen. So I would love to see him go back to. No, he does comedy.
He still does stand up. He still does stand up. Right. Yeah. But movie wise, he hasn't done anything in a long time.
I was thinking like Keith would be really good.
Lakeith, okay. Yeah.
I'd love to see Lakeith in Bart's role. Like Lakeith just has that natural charisma and is really, really good.
What about Headley?
Oh, I haven't thought about that yet.
Wow.
I mean, there's so many really funny actors these days. I'm like, I'm trying to think. Maybe like a Jimmy Simpson type, or like maybe even like what's his name from Matt Berry from What We Do in the Shadows, like the British guy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like Matt Berry would be great in the Hadley role.
I would love that. I would also suggest Armie Hammer would be hilarious as Headley Lamar. That would be really, really good. Also, nice little potential reunion between Lakeith and Armie. That would be really great. Apparently, they love each other. So I would love that.
Apparently, Armie Hammer eats people.
Armie Hammer, yes, is people. Exactly. And what about you, Rob?
Oh, boy. That's a tough one.
Pressure.
I would... No pressure whatsoever. I would be remiss to say that, I would like to see Matt Bomer as the Waco Kid. I just think he could do it.
Oh, great pick.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, he's just, he's a great looking dude. And, I think he's got some comedic chops that I don't know if he's, known for. And I think it'd be a really good role for him.
Awesome.
As far as the Madeline Kahn character, I have no idea who to pick.
Oh, I see it from like Katie. What's her name? Kate McKinnon from SNL.
Yeah, I feel that'd be pretty on point for sure.
As long as you get a good director to keep her in line, I think so. Yes.
Right.
She can go all over the place.
I can see. Madeline Kahn was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for an Oscar for this role.
For an Oscar.
I was like, I would cast Lena Headley for Hadley from Yeah, I keep saying Lena Headley. It's hilarious. Can we just say how many times I've accidentally said Lena Headley because I've been so confused about what's going on right now?
I would love for you to keep bringing that up whenever he comes back on.
Oh my god, yeah! Please do not mention Aroka that I don't know who Lena Headley is.
He's like, still bring it up 10 years later. Come on, guys.
I think I have the perfect casting for one of the roles. So.
Okay.
All right.
Gabby Johnson, the old prospector that speaks nonsense. Harrison Ford.
Oh, that'd be really good.
Oh, I'd be into that. Oh gosh, I would love for him to go meta like that.
Yeah. I'd be sign me up.
Yeah.
But I feel like that might be a little too obvious, especially compared, he had a very similar on the nose kind of villain character from 10,000 Ways to Die in the West, or A Million Ways to Die in the West, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that was good though.
Yeah, he played like anyway, he played a very similar kind of character. But yeah, guys, that's it for tonight. We're just going to be wrapping things with a nice little bow over here. So thank you so much for hanging out with us this wonderful Tuesday evening. And Drew, you're going to be doing some pretty fun stuff here pretty soon. So I'm kind of jealous. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm about to go play Mario Kart Party for over at PJ Campbell's network. But for the most part, guys, you can find me over here on Mondays and Thursdays doing the VideoChronic Pop Culture Quiz. On Thursday, we're doing Coming to America, which is actually Sean's quiz request. So that's gonna be an awesome one. I think a lot of people want to get in on that. Also on Sundays, we'll be live in the dark with VideoDrew at 9 p.m. This week we have Vinny Mancuso on as a guest. And then Cinema Bias next week, we have a very special guest coming on. That is my favorite manager, Kaiser Soze. No, just regular Kaiser. Kaiser's going to be coming on. We don't know what movie he's going to be doing, but he's going to be coming on to Cinema Bias, which is at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays.
Absolutely, every single week. And Sean, our producer, big man on campus. Where can we find you and everything you're working on?
So you can usually find me here helping Drew out. You can also help see me helping out John Rocco on his channel. I also have my own channel, Pop Culture Universe, where we do a lot of movie reviews and trailer reviews, and we're starting to break down WandaVision as that's coming out. So you can find me out in those places.
Awesome.
It's almost like you have opinions or something about movies.
WandaVision's so good.
Crazy. Unexpected. And Rob, you were our patron for tonight's episode, so thank you so much again.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you
and
very
thanks for
much.
picking such an awesome movie.
My pleasure.
That reminds me, guys. We are going to be revamping the whole VideoDrew Patreon pretty soon. There should be an announcement out like this week, probably coming out. So like we're going to be revamping it. We're going to make it so the tiers are like a little bit more accessible for everyone. So because we want to get as many people in doing this Cinema Bias and giving us your like movie takes and stuff. So look for that over at patreon.com/VideoDrew. That's the last plug.
Yes, please check it out, guys. It's right there in the corner. And also, just giving you guys a heads up, here in February, we're going to do some Black cinema films. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Right.
It's going to be a blast. I'm super excited to go on
Not
that.
wait.
And I'm Alex Mack, part of the Collection Crew. You can find me right here on Twitter over there. And you can also find me being part of the Call to Action podcast, Schmoedown podcast. Every other week, I also have a show called Schmoebates, where we dive into Schmoedown's biggest questions and see it nice and debated. And so that's a whole fun time. So definitely check us out on Twitter and YouTube and everywhere podcasts are found. But we're going to be trying to make it a lot of really great improvements here at Cinema Bias as well. So definitely stay tuned for that, so we can give you the best content possible. So guys, have a great rest of your evening. Stay safe and just keep watching weird movies. Yeah. And go check out the movie.
Bye. Love you guys.
And thank you, Danny, for these wonderful credits. Bye.